Hey everyone, how are you? My name is Blair Sinta. Welcome to Recording Drums with Blair Sinta. Today my guest is Adam Christgau. Adam is an incredible drummer as well as a great human being and has also a passion for woodworking, which has really become interesting to his recording career here in LA that we're going to get into. If you don't know Adam, he has toured with Tegan and Sara, Troy Sevan, Ingrid Michaelson, and lately he's doing a lot of recording for composer Dan Romer, and he is the drummer on Pixar's Luca. And Adam has a new space where he is making furniture, pretty awesome woodworks and things like that, and also now recording drums out of. So we get into some really interesting, kind of cool territory, how kind of a secondary career that he started has really morphed with his drumming career and the space that he's in and how he's utilized that, even though I don't think they were ever intended to come together. All right. If you enjoy the podcast, please give it a high rating on whatever podcast you listen to. Give it a thumbs up here on YouTube. Please share it to other drummers or engineers, anybody you think would be interested in. I have a couple courses for sale: Introduction to Recording Drums and Improve Your Groove. Those are available on my website. Or you can click the link and get a PDF to my go-to recording gear for my studio. Everything from headphones to mic pre's to microphones, you name it, that's a little free PDF. You can click the link below here on YouTube, or if you're on my Instagram page, it's the link there. All right, without further ado, here is Adam Christgau. Take it away, Adam.
Yeah, I think that's 100% the thing. And I think too, I got a little burnt out, probably with the business side of music, and the constant chasing of things. And I got tired, from touring constantly. And I think having the woodworking has like reinvigorated the inspiration juices on all fronts. It's making me more excited to sit down at the kit because it is such a special time now. Every single time I do get to sit down and play, and it's like, I don't know, just something to have that really gets your brain moving in a creative fashion. Well, I think will always foster creativity on both sides.
Yeah, and then I would imagine it also clears your brain for perspective. So when you do sit down, you're like, okay, I'm sitting down for a purpose,
Yeah,
not just to sit down and hack through a bunch of paradiddles or whatever. You know what I mean?
totally,
You're like, I'm gonna sit down
totally.
and play something because there's a goal in mind.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, or I mean, and sometimes there is no the only goal is like finding the childhood bliss of what it means to play along with the record front to back. And like, how often were we doing that when we were all touring all the time? Probably never, right? So it's like all of a sudden I have this opportunity to go, yeah, I'm exhausted, I've worked all day, but it's 9:30 at night, I have nothing to do.
Right.
I want to go to my shed and I'll go, just play along the Fela Kuti records as long as my body can handle it,
Right. Right.
and just see what happens.
Yeah. That's dope.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, yeah, I'm just so grateful that it has like inspired me to go get back in the shed, or
Right.
you know,
Right.
yeah, because I've never been a huge practicer, but that's now it's like now that the time is far and few between, so it's encouraging, you know.
All right. So let me so like just to transition to recording, are you working on things that you feel like you need to work on? Like what's the incentive behind the practice? Is it uh oh, that'd be fun and I really want to learn that, or is it like I really need to hone in on like Tony Allen stuff?
Hmm.
Is that what's the it
I mean, at this point, I guess I would say it's ultimately facility,
right,
because I have been playing less. I do notice areas where my facility is just not as up to par as it was.
right,
Um, uh, this, but I have a jazz degree, and that's what I thought I was going to be doing for my whole life. And so, honestly, most of my time has gone back shedding bebop stuff and like just playing ride cymbal for a while and just seeing how I can make all that feel, because I think that's ultimately what got me a ton of work early on, is people found out I could play quietly, and there was a ton of singer-songwriters who didn't want to really hear the drums, but they wanted to feel them, and I was like, great, I can do that. um, and it's funny, on this, over the past weekend, I played with an artist named Angel Olsen, and it's the the dynamics of the gig range from brushes to me almost breaking my sticks at some points in the set.
Right.
And the brushes part was, I was like, man, oh shit, it's been a while. I really, and it's simple stuff, but it wasn't like, it wasn't that really honed in, just like perfect swish happening all the time. And so yeah, it's making me want to go practice again.
And the whole ride cymbal pattern thing really, at least for me, it's like that goes away. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's the strength, the muscle tone in there, and then when you lose that, you start to lose that feel, and you know it in your head. You're like, it's not right. It's not right. And then maybe
Yeah.
10 minutes in, you're like, oh, it's finally happening. Like that happens to me.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm glad you get it in 10 minutes. I'm still looking for it.
I might have exaggerated there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But totally. Yeah, yeah. I Yeah, it's definitely gone. I don't remember the last time I played a jazz gig. I would love to do some weird trio hit in a bookstore with that I don't tell anybody about, and just have fun with that. That would be great.
Yes.
Um,
I know
just
where
to
you
have,
yeah, you can just hide out and do it.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, do you feel like uh how much do you feel like learning like jazz like helped just your overall feel or understanding different feels, especially in like recording, recording non-jazz, understanding swing, stuff like that.
Uh, Honestly, yeah, actually, that's been a huge thing, and I'm sure we'll get into it a whole bunch. But I would say that one of the composers that I work with the most is a guy named Dan Romer. He and I were in a band together in college, um, and we've been working together ever since we met freshman year of college. Um, and I will say, like, a big thing for him and for me, becoming his go-to percussionist, a lot of it has been a swing feel thing. And he cited this, many times. Like, he'll ask a drummer to play a swing feel, and if they don't have a deep, not that I have the most deeply rooted history of swing, but I've played enough of it to that I can move the swing feel around to be tighter or looser depending on what the artist, the composer, the song dictates. And I think that's where it's come in huge, is because of, examining Jimmy Cobb's ride pattern, examining Elvin's ride pattern. We know that there are pretty wide differences there, or Jack, or the list goes on.
Yeah.
But to be able to kind of mimic all those on an intimate level, and then reapply them into a swung setting in the studio, I think is super, super valuable.
Right. And we're not talking about playing on a ride cymbal either. We're talking about playing
Just feel.
on a big
Yeah.
big bass drum or a whatever, a clave or
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, whatever's in front of you, the
Yeah.
feel is going to be necessary. And at this point too, like, 95% of the recordings that I do for film and TV, the drums are already pre-programmed. They're already there. They're samples, and the composer literally says, "I want you to do this so it just has a human feel." And we'll probably still layer in the samples, but we need the human feel element, and we know that you'll supply that.
Right. So that's actually a perfect transition to like, you know, some stuff that we were doing together in
Yeah.
Heat. And it's funny because I was thinking about this. I was like, I don't know if I want to divulge, like some of that, but I was like, no, that's actually perfect. So you had been here to record, like I recorded you a bunch playing pop tunes or whatever, and then you
Yep.
called me and you said, hey, Dan is going to score for Superman. What's the show called again?
It's called Superman and Lois.
Superman and Lois, right?
Yeah.
So we did one episode here at my house, and we crammed, and we got good sounds, but it was also like, hey, sounds, it's not big enough. Like you need a bigger space, and you transitioned to your warehouse, which is like, to me, is like super awesome, interesting. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah. It's
talk about like the space you have, why you have it, and then how it's now become like what it is.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. I mean, how deep in the furniture realm do you want? Well,
It's
okay,
your call. It's
okay.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, for people who don't know me already, and I feel like the majority of friends of ours who know me know the story. But I became really fascinated with building furniture 3 or 4 years ago, and um, that quickly turned into a second career for me, and of course started putting me in wood shops. And I've been in like 3 different spaces now, but just this year I signed a lease for my own space in Cypress Park, and it turns out that it's a rather large 3,000 square foot open room. Um, it's actually part of like a 6,000 square foot building. And when we first moved in, it wasn't my lease at the time, but it was just a big wide open space. And I said, man, I really need to go play my drums in there before we move anything in. So I rolled up one day before anybody moved in. I set up my jazz kit. I set up like a bigger rock kit and just played in the room, and it sounded freakishly huge and insane. And I had never, I had played a couple arenas at this point, but there's always mics that turn on after 2 minutes and you don't get to hear the sound of the room. So it was the first time of really experiencing that room. So cut to a few months ago, I ended up taking over the lease. And I had never really had the time and space to record in the room because it was always somebody else's space, but now it's mine. So the biggest issue with Dan has been that there's less and less time that he has available to track me playing drums. So he doesn't, he doesn't have the space to record stuff at his home, or he was moving, or the time. And then there wasn't a budget to go hire out Ocean Way or United or whatever. That's the same thing, isn't it? So yeah.
They're actually not the same thing if you ask them.
Not.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Right?
Yes, of
Right?
course.
Yeah.
So Dan just said, well, why don't we just like try and record in your shop and just see what happens? And within 30 minutes of the first recording session, he wrote to me right away and was like, this is exactly the sound we've been looking for. This is perfect. And I should say too, like, it's not perfect at all. There's no treatment up. The only sound treatment that you get is whatever pieces happen to be in the shop at the time.
Which
You know what I mean?
so that's changing all the time.
It changes every day. Right. Every day there's, something gets built, something gets torn down, something gets moved.
Right.
I guess you could think about it as like diffusers spread out across the room.
Sure.
And I haven't, it's a very, I don't want to say DIY, but it's a very like guerrilla setup. Like I just set up in the same place every single time.
Okay.
And I haven't tried any other places in the room. It's just the first tried because it's closest to my workbench and it happened to work. So I just left it.
Is it kind of a corner, or are you in the center of the room, or like?
I would say I'm like 20 feet off of a corner, but facing into a corner, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like I'm facing diagonally across the room. I'm not.
We're talking 3,000 square feet, right?
We're talking 3,000 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So 20. I think the room is probably 20 by 30. Does that math check out? Nope, it doesn't. But
yeah. How high?
Yeah. We're talking 14-foot ceilings as well. Anywhere from like 14 to 16.
Okay.
In the middle, because it's an arched ceiling. I think that might also have some help in there too, right? So nothing is truly parallel between the floor and the ceiling. And then the
Yep.
room itself is fairly square, but there's also weird change, like, because we divided the room. Legally, though, we can't have walls that go floor to ceiling.
Hmm.
So it's for fire code, right? So
Okay.
there's a whole 2,000 square foot chamber that is empty, or has other wood shops, electrical shops, but there's a 6-inch gap between my room and their room. So I don't know, that might have some effect on some of my sound. I don't have any mics in there. I don't know if that's like, if that chamber is reverberating and spitting back out into mine.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I mean, what I do is I set up in the same place every time, pretty much use the same mic configuration for Dan
Hmm.
whenever I record Dan.
Which is what?
Which
Like,
is, yeah, there's a close mic du jour. Usually it's been the SE kick mic.
right.
It was on most everything, to be honest. Just because I'm lazy and I don't want to change mics out, but that works really well on all the floor tom, bass drum, larger low stuff.
Right.
I have a pair of Royer 121s about 10 feet off the kit, or off the playing position,
Okay.
and those are in Bloomline.
Okay.
And then I have a pair of Dan's Peluso 47 SE. Is that the? It's like a 47 clone,
Okay.
tube mic, and those I have just as far as the mic cables will reach.
So like 50 feet.
I wouldn't say 50, but like, yeah, probably close to 30.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. And that's for all. So we're recording a new show called Station 11. I don't know when that comes out, or what network it comes out on, but so a bunch of the drums on that are done in that fashion.
No matter the drum, whether it's a snare or a concert bass drum or a triangle, this mic configuration just kind of stays.
It stays up, as per request of the composer.
Right.
But yeah, the only thing I'll change is gain staging.
Right.
And, and also I will say, like, I've been incredibly fortunate in that I'm not terribly plug-in literate, EQ literate. I'm not very literate in the recording world. And in all these instances, all these composers just want line level. Thank God, because I don't like, if I could put some sauce on it. I've messed around with it over the years,
Right.
but more often than not, that's why I'm also coming to you, is because I know you can help us craft a really great sound for what we're looking for.
Right.
But in all these instances, everybody's just like, I want it raw. I want to be able to do whatever I want to it. Just give me line level.
Right. Because they're gonna blend with samples or put the amount of ambience that they want or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah.
And really, it's just like, I need to look out for phasing, and usually
Right.
that hasn't been a problem. I will say there are so many like woodshop accoutrements that I had lying around that I didn't realize would be such a good help for recording. And
Like.
that is, like, I got a laser measuring tape.
Oh.
It's like a long range measuring tape. So if you get in, like, it's for contractors, right? You go into a big space, you need to measure how long it is from your back wall to your front wall. It's 50 feet and 3/4 inches. But now all of a sudden I can do that from my drum position to my mic position and go, oh, okay, that's 25 feet. Oh, that's 25 feet. Good.
Whoa.
Yeah. So I'm not like dragging an
Everyone run
SLR.
to Home Depot.
Yeah.
The price is about to go up.
So I highly recommend that. And also, be sure that you check the distance on them. There's like cheaper ones that will only go 80 feet, and then the next tier up goes 150 feet, whatever. I think I have a DeWalt. It's great. I recommend it.
Yeah. Sponsor.
But it's been huge. And then, like, the other day, Dan is really into a Balkan instrument called a tupan, which for all intents and purposes is a Balkan bass drum.
Okay.
But one side is really low, and then the other side is cranked really high, and it's a really thin head. Traditionally, it's played with a mallet on one side, and then the other side is called a switch,
Okay.
which is a really thin, kind of like a piece of cane, or like even a vibraphone mallet is too thick. Like it's a very thin, flexible stick. I couldn't really tell you
Hmm.
the exact. It's probably like a thick grass. Maybe a bamboo would work well.
So is that like if you use something else, you might go through the head?
Uh,
Is it that thin, or it just makes a tonal thing?
no, it's a tonal difference.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all a tonal difference. So then all of a sudden I realized, oh man, I have a pile of scrap paint stirring sticks. Great, this is going to sound perfect as a switch, and that's what I've been using. And like, you know,
Did you find the perfectly balanced straight one, or?
it is a square piece of 1/4 inch Baltic birch plywood. I do need to
Right.
smooth over the edges because I did make some marks, but
Okay. Have you tried different colored paints on it to see if that helps?
no, but I bet, yeah, I'm sure like acrylic would have a nicer feel than it. Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of amazing, man. And then, oh, did you buy this? Did you buy one, or did Dan have one and loan it to you?
A
This.
Tupon?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a couple. He's kind of like on the
Oh, okay.
yeah. Fortunately, we're in the position that if Dan really wants a certain sound, he will do the research, or I'll do it with him, and we'll go find a couple different drums to use. And over the course of different scores, we purchased, you know, some kind of holy grail drums, some not as much. So it's kind of great for me because it means my collection doesn't have to grow that much either.
But you get
I
to
don't
play with the
fall into that
toys.
trap,
Yeah, yeah,
but I get to play with the toys. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. And now I've moved my entire drum collection to the shop too, because I lost my drum storage for whatever reason. The place that they were ended up closing, and so I moved everything into my shop. And so now it's like it's even better. I can just go into my storage room and pick out whatever I need and bring it into the shop. I will say the biggest pain in the ass is the fact that I have to tear down and set up every single time
Yeah.
I want to
So,
record
but
something.
you're doing some full kit tracking in there too.
I've done a little bit of full kit tracking. So far it's pretty minimal.
Okay.
The sonic world that it sits best in so far has been like Motown or James Brown era
Hmm.
or bebop era stuff,
Right.
because in those instances I'll use my SE up front, and then I have Michael Jolie modded Octava mod MK12s,
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
which KM84 kind of clone situation,
Sure.
uh, and those seem to be the mics that I get the most questions about, and also, in my opinion, are some of the most perfectly transparent overheads that I've used, that I own anyway. They
Hmm.
always seem to work.
Right.
Yeah, they pick up a really wide frequency, and then they give you a really realistic image of what you're hearing.
Right.
Many times I'll just set up those two stereo overheads and then a kick mic in front, and that's it. Or I've even done like a single Royer over the kit and a single Royer 5 feet off the kit.
Wow.
And like it gives off enough of reverb from the room, because I don't have any gobos or anything.
Right.
Like the reverb from the room will provide all the space that you need.
Yeah.
And it totally sits in like, yeah, like late 50s bebop era sound
Right.
recording, or
Right.
like 60s funk era stuff. Like the snare just travels that perfect amount
Yep.
that feels like it's in a Motown recording or something like that.
Right. So, but are you finding that maybe things are brighter, like snares are brighter in that room, or like if you really wanted like heavy rock, it's gonna come out more like '90s Soundgarden-y stuff as opposed to like kind of in your face low end.
Yeah, I bet with the right people, like if Brendan O'Brien came in there, I'm sure it'd be a different story, right? But for now, the biggest difference I notice is that, like my Superphonic, if I crank it, I'm sorry, no, the cheaper one, I'm totally forgetting the
Acrolite.
name. Thank you. If I crank my Acrolite in any other room, it sounds pretty high and it sounds kind of thin, but they have enough body.
Yep.
But in my wood shop, it sounds much lower in pitch than I would have expected.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, which is I don't can't really explain that.
Okay. Yeah.
Somebody with a physics degree or like a deeper knowledge could tell me probably, but I don't. That's the only biggest difference I've known. I haven't mic'd up a full kit and really tried to like blast something out. Um, if I've ever played full volume with a full kit, it's been like two mics and then just put decapitator on them and try and John Bonham everything and
Right.
make
Right.
it otherworldly sounding. But I'm fascinated to see what it's going to be like if someone calls and wants a tighter sound.
I'm
I'll
guessing
probably call you, to be honest.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing in your back of your mind you're like you're gonna build some gobos at some point and just to have them.
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's it's a lack of free time to do that.
Sure. I get
you
it.
know,
Materials,
um,
like it's yeah.
yeah, material costs and all that. But I think there is there is a second room that I have in the building that is that I try and rent out as a photo studio, and that room is like 14 by 20, maybe 15 by 20, and with 14-foot ceilings as well. There are some standing waves in there, but I am considering building a couple gobos for that room if I want to start tracking in that room. Um, Somehow out of nowhere, I've stumbled into a place where I have a big room, a medium room, and then there are all small offices in the front that if I really wanted to track and cram myself into, I could and get like an LCD, super dry, whatever sound.
You could you could go
So I might.
full drumbrella, man, in your room, and maybe that would just
I mean,
just
I
go, man.
could. I could.
Yeah.
Man, to whoever built that, I feel for them because now knowing what I know about, you know, building objects on the other side of that feels like it would be such a pain in the ass to figure out. But they do sound incredible. They do sound great.
I'm very excited for you, and I'm excited for me to come over there once you do that. And
Please, yeah. Can't wait to have you over. Yeah, man.
man, that's so cool though. How it kind of worked itself backwards. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the woodworking thing, just it's like a second passion, and then drums found their way, like the recording thing found its way into that world. It's kind of crazy.
It's something I'm super grateful to have, and I'm amazed that I can do both. I don't want to say I've figured it out yet, but I'm just like there. There are days, of course, we're all exhausted, and it happens. The only unfortunate part of the scenario is if I am going to record, it has to be at night, and usually that means I've worked a full day in the shop, and then I start recording at 7 p.m.
Really?
setting up my
Okay,
stuff.
because
Yeah.
there's other people working and
Yeah, I rent bench space to other guys in the shop. I have an employee. Like, I'm not going to tell everybody to stop working so I can make $150, you know. But um, so yeah, so I got to do it at night. And also, okay, let's be real about it. This is a an industrial building on a pretty major. It's on Figueroa, so it's for those of you who don't live in LA, like there's a bit of traffic on there. Um, it also seems to be a strip where dudes with people with loud cars like to rev their engines as they speed up and down the street, right? There's a dog next door who barks at anything that walks by the house.
wow.
So yeah, there are takes when I have to stop halfway because a car ruined it. There's not isolation at all. It's a sheet metal door, right?
Wow.
I've had crickets appear and can't find them and feel like like the old guy looking for
Right. Right.
the fire alarm that keeps chirping every 10 minutes but he doesn't know where it is. It's like that. And fortunately, Dan has a great crew of people working. He was just like, record the cicadas and then we'll we'll re-sample them in and we'll
Right.
phase it out and it'll be fine. But so it is it's still very guerrilla oriented, and there's like a magic about it, and maybe that lends itself, like maybe the cicadas would actually work somehow into the sound and we don't know it yet.
I mean, to me, it's just fascinating that like you're playing on, soundtracks, film and TV in this environment in 2021, and it is so guerrilla, yet it's going to like major networks and like Pixar
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I mean, to me, that's the whole fascinating thing about like this subject to me, and why I knew it would be great to talk to you, because like whether you're in a bedroom closet or like a warehouse in industrial downtown LA and fighting like cicadas and dogs and backfiring mufflers, yet it's going to like freaking movie theaters and like Netflix and whatever. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, it is pretty. I guess I hadn't really thought about that so much. I'm sure there will be like an aha moment. I should have had them already, but I feel like there will probably be one coming, or at least I hope, where we get to kind of divulge that to the executives. And
Maybe this is it.
yeah, right. You've been recording where?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like, the way let's just, for example, like how they would have recorded like Star Wars with John Williams, right?
Mm.
I mean, it's kind of a good example. Or like, whatever, Superman with John Williams, right?
Right.
And now you're recording the same character, same story.
Yeah.
In a woodshop warehouse, with these elements happening, but you're doing it and it works.
Yeah.
And it's working. And like, that's awesome. It's just awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty fun. I'm certainly excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you, from what I remember, you're doing the Apollo 8.
I have an 8XP.
8XP.
And then I also have connected via ADAT. I have a really old interface called a Mackie Onyx Blackbird, which is just another 8-channel interface. It's FireWire. To be honest, I went through the steps of like hooking it up, but I don't think it's going to work anymore. Like I haven't actually used more than 5 channels since I moved into my space. If I wanted to use 16 channels, I think something like you need to use the software that came with the program or that came with the hardware to use it even in ADAT format. And
right.
they haven't updated the software to work on whatever OS I'm on now. So it's like, it could just be wasting space in there. But for now it's all in a rack unit, and I roll it out whenever I need to set things up. And yeah, I mean, it sounds great. I know that's what you use at your place as well, right?
Yeah, the 16, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I guess if I were to do any upgrades at all, it would be to get a 16-channel unit. But other than that,
so how long does it take you to set up? Like,
probably takes anywhere from half an hour to 45 minutes.
Yeah. But
and then
you probably have a pretty good system at this point, like even measuring your mics with the laser thing in the face, right?
Yeah, well, honestly, once I did it a couple times and it worked, I now have just markings on the floor that I know, oh, there's that, there's the divot in that concrete and in that block, and I know where to put the stand there. And
right.
And the height of the microphones might change by inches here and there, but generally in the same space, and yeah, it's still a pain in the ass. And like the minute I can start to afford to hire an assistant of any sort, that's what they're going to be doing.
And you're going into a laptop.
Yeah, and an old laptop at that, because my new M1 doesn't support my gear.
It's just incredible to me, man. It's like the fact that you figured this out, to me, is just like awesome.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably should just get a Mac Mini and a screen and call it a day and have that as my rig, but you know, it works for now. Hopefully everything will catch up with the M1s, and we won't have these issues and I can use my regular laptop. But for now, it's my 2015, um,
Yeah.
MacBook Pro. So
Yeah. Which
yeah,
is good because it has some ports in it, like some connections. That's what mine is too. The newer ones, you're like
yeah,
Thunderbolt and that's it, or whatever it is now. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So
do you ever record the is that a Roland kit behind you?
it is. Yeah.
Do you ever record with that?
Um, I've done, I've like demoed a couple podcast themes because I do play a little bit of bass and guitar like yourself. Um, and so, yeah, I have used it for like some MIDI stuff. Um, and I gotta say, the house drums in Logic actually sound incredible. I think they're Chamberlain. I've heard rumor.
I've heard that too.
Um, and, um, and they sound great, man. If you can go in there and tweak a little bit, they sound awesome. Way better than anything built into that kit. So honestly, kind of like I was saying before, the I don't really feel generally don't feel inspired to practice a whole lot. But if I do feel inspired, it'll be later at night. It'll be like 10 or 11, and all of a sudden I just get this wind of energy. And if I don't have enough energy to go to my practice space where I have drums, yeah, I'll just like play this kit behind me and might not even plug it in. Sometimes the rubber actually sounds kind of great and it makes you play other shit. So like I just dig into that.
So if you're grabbing the sounds from Logic,
Yeah.
tell me that whole setup, how that works
Oh, it's purely a USB cable.
from
Just
your laptop.
right into my laptop and use it as a MIDI controller.
Is it like Easy Drummer or where how are the sounds laid out from the laptop to connects with the pads?
Um, I believe they're in Logic. There's a couple Roland presets, so it knows that it's
Oh,
communicating with the
it
V
just
drum
sees it.
brain.
Okay,
Yep.
sorry, that's my limited knowledge on that.
No, no.
Okay,
And it's like there's Logic has their own, kind of like how Pro Tools has their own set of built-in instruments. Logic has their own drum instrument
right. Okay,
that unfortunately there is one that spits out like an algorithm or AI determined like drum beats, and they actually sound great. And I think they are Matt as well, maybe a couple other people. But yeah, the sounds that they use for those AI instruments can also just be used as a MIDI instrument, and they sound dope. I mean, obviously cymbals are tough, but you can tune them. You can tune them all. You can
right.
add muting. You can take it off. You can put them in a space. It's probably, um, had I had more experience with Superior or any of the Stephen Slate stuff,
Yep.
I wouldn't be speaking its praises as much. But it's what's there, and it's like it's the easiest plug and play version for me to just turn on my computer
Yeah.
and play for 20 minutes and then go to bed.
I mean, Kurt
You know,
Biscara is doing. I talked to Kurt like months ago, and he's doing a similar thing with his Drumcat, literally on his Drumcat pad and a foot pedal, and he's doing tracks like that for people. Yeah.
whoa,
Yep. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty incredible.
I mean, it's uh, why not? You know, I would
Yeah.
think you just want to practice trap beats with get the pull up your 808s and like work on your hi hat. You know,
No, no. I mean, yeah, like Elish gave me Elish gave me these Billy Martin exercises that it's like some African 6/8 clave stuff. And honestly, it sounds better on these pads than I think it does on a real kit. I don't know why that, I don't know. So I play the pads acoustically, and it's just like a nice tool to have.
you sound better or it sounds better.
That's a good question. I think sonically the pads to me sound a little cooler because they sound like weird tubby plastic drums from another world, or like strange cowbells. And I feel like playing it on a drum kit feels way more just like a studied university application of an
Mm.
art form that shouldn't be played on, or it just
Oh,
like
it
is
gives
so
it some
often.
vibe.
Yeah, yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah,
I mean, that's an inspiring way to practice, right? It's if it sounds cool, it might take you in some directions, some
yeah.
inspired directions of practicing, as opposed to like, oh, I feel like I'm at music school playing these, like learning out of the Latin funk book, right?
Yeah, funk book exercise 4B.
Yeah.
Like, no, I can't deal with that anymore. And that's an interesting point too. I feel like crossing back over to the recording side of things, I've been discovering recently, um, and maybe it is because of my limited knowledge on the plug-in side and hardware side of things, but um, I've I've found that in the studio, I've been if I'm in there with an engineer who really knows what they're doing behind the scenes and can provide me with a backdrop to change the kit sound completely,
Hmm.
i'm playing I'm playing stuff that I never would have played otherwise. And to me, that's like the most exciting part about playing in the studio, is when somebody goes, all right, well, here's a kit, you've been playing it for 30 odd years, but it's going to sound totally different because we put a ton of delay on it or whatever,
Right. Right.
compress the hell out of one a drum only, and so whenever you hit that one drum, it freaks out. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that to me is like the most exciting part about recording these days. um, or especially with Dan, he's got these sample libraries that are so deep with the world's strangest drums that they sourced from somebody's closet, and there's only two of the drums that exist in the world, and they're in this sample library. And now I have to go, oh shit, what? I guess that's like, okay, that's like a floor tom, but maybe with a piece of metal on it, but like taped on, not just dangling on. And like maybe I can mute it with my hand and hit it with my weird paint stirring stick, and that'll sound like the sample. Okay, great, we're good to go. You know, and that's kind of where I get more excited about recording
Yeah.
these things.
I had a fun experience a couple years ago. My friend James, engineer friend James, called me in to kind of like make some noises on some really unusual drums for Dave Porter. It was for the El Camino. Uh,
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah.
so I went to East West, and there was like a 72-inch. Technically, it was a bass drum, but it was more like a head, right?
Oh, cool.
And
Yeah,
they
yeah,
had
yeah.
already sampled these things, and there was like these huge oil can things with the mallets, and then these kind of octagon things, but like about 20 of them laid out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they just wanted me to come in and play patterns, with different uh, materials,
Hmm.
brushes or whatever, and or my fingers or whatever. Just use my creativity as a drummer, and man, that was like really fun because it was like
Yeah.
something that I may never play again. They're like, okay, here's this giant drum,
Yeah.
72-inch head. Do something.
Yeah.
Give you a click. Do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, that is the most fun, I would say. There was we had yeah, I believe there's a show that I played on for Dan called Maniac that's on Netflix. um I'm probably biased because I played on it, but I thought it was a really, really great show. um and we Dan really wanted some taiko drums, so we rented taikos and brought them to his house, and I got to play those for quite a bit, and then we made a sample library for ourselves with
Mm,
those drums.
yeah.
And it, just like you said, man, it's just like, it definitely kid in a candy store with an empty bag and an unlimited wallet,
So
you know.
do you put those into your Roland kit there ever?
I guess I would have to, no, no, because I would need the contact plug
Oh,
in,
right.
and then I would need to get the instrument from his assistant. I
Right.
could, there's no reason like I probably should do that.
What are you waiting for, dude?
I don't know. Yeah, I think necessity. I think the moment that Dan needs me to have a tight, dry sound is when I'll build the gobos.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and the same thing is like, oh, okay, we need you to record this thing on MIDI and then send it back to us. And also the other thing about Superman is the turnaround times were absurd. I had never experienced it this quick. Like I would record, episode 2 and record episode 3 the following week, and episode 2 would come out that week, kind of
I
thing.
remember that because we did
That's
episode
right.
1, and I literally think it was on the air the next week, and it was like,
Yeah,
what?
we were like, what? How did that happen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that very well might have to happen soon enough where, yeah, we need you to do it all via MIDI so we can just get it done and
Yeah.
turned out right
And
away.
then you're just sitting in your apartment doing it like through those.
It's great. That's fine.
That's awesome, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were
Yeah.
you so this is kind of something I ask everybody, like, but were you when you were like what was your first like entrance into recording yourself? Not just like being in a recording studio, but like
Yeah.
was it like was it like the high school rock band thing and the 4-track, or like what was?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how deep we want to get. My dad is a musician. He
Mm-hmm.
plays guitar.
Mm-hmm.
He was a classical guitar major. But I mean, I started playing when I was 3, and probably by the age of 4 and 5, he had a little Tascam 4-track in the house, or I think he at one point had like a TAC reel-to-reel in the house as well.
Cool.
So yeah, from an early age, I was recording stuff. Whether or not I was like doing takes and making sure I got song forms correctly, like, is another thing. But yeah, there was always something laying around, or even if it was like the cassette player in the house that happened to have a record function and a small mic on it, I was doing that. And then by the time high school rolled around, enough people started having like home studios in the neighborhood, or you know or at least nearby, that I would start recording there. But like, I was in a hardcore band. We recorded in some dude's basement in some like sketchy building at
Yeah.
some point. And then, yeah, like by the time college was rolling around, there was enough like recording experience having to do all those like audition tapes that I started getting pretty comfortable with it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I would say that's probably where I had to start recording the most. Like, yeah, I did, the odd like summer camp had like a studio, and your band at summer camp would record one shitty take of something or whatever.
Right.
But then all of a sudden it was senior year, and it's like you need to send a different audition tape, or like record 4 different things, send those around, record a video audition for this place, send that over.
And that was to a CD?
Yeah, at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for me that would have been cassette, right?
Right. Yeah.
You just literally hit record on your cassette, but like, yeah.
I wonder if the video, how I even sent that. I must have put it on a CD at that point.
Yeah, DVD.
Yeah. Yep. Or it was a QuickTime file on a CDR, I bet. That's my guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. So yeah, okay, but very early on, the idea of recording yourself was a thing, like right from the beginning of playing.
Yeah, totally. I was very fortunate in that music was in the house at all times.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just the concept of recording. Or my dad was a bit of an archivist, so I think there's still tapes that he recorded of us playing together when I was 4 and 5 years old.
Amazing.
I gotta find those. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I always find it fascinating at what point, people were exposed to the idea of recording, how good or crappy it was, and then what may have sparked the interest to get into it deeper.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, did you feel like it was like a necessity? When did you move to LA?
2012.
Right. And did you feel like it was a necessity before you were here?
Yeah. I was doing some commercial jingle recording in New York. I lived in New York for 10 years before moving here.
Right.
And I was really fortunate to kind of fall into a jingle house, because an artist I had been working with just said, was going to record a song for a Pantene campaign, and was like, oh, I have a band. We should just bring them in and have them record the song with me. And I just happened to get along with those guys. So they were the ones who really encouraged me to get a home rig. So that's why I bought that Mackie onyx, and
Oh,
I built I did build a room in my Brooklyn apartment that was like really haphazardly put together, like separated walls and then put moving blankets on everything, um, and had a recording set up there. And all I could do was super tight, super dry. But
and how many
but
mics?
eight, up to eight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think I probably I would use all eight, at that point. And since then,
You were understanding phasing at that point, or was it more
no.
just like, all right, okay,
No.
you just
I mean,
throw the shit up and it sounds pretty good. Like,
totally. I had heard what phasing was, and I knew that I was supposed to keep the mics the same distance from the drum, and that's about as far as it went. If there was an issue I couldn't tell and I couldn't fix it,
okay,
um, I lucked out. And actually, um, yeah, I had a studio there at the house. When I moved to LA in 2012, I actually moved in with Justin Glasgow. He
mm,
was my first roommate here.
yep,
And so
not a bad move.
I
Right.
really lucked out
Yeah.
there. I know you've talked to him,
Mhm.
and we converted. We had a 2.5 car garage at the house we moved into, and we converted that into our drum room. And man, that was really fun and really eye opening too, because he was so deeply knowledgeable in that world that all of a sudden, like, I think I got spoiled, man. It's just like
Mhm.
he was able to be like, "Oh, well, this is what you're doing. Let me just record this whole thing for you, and you just go in and play." And I was like, "Great," you
Right,
know.
right.
Um,
You were watching him, like you were watching him do it, and you're like, okay, right, like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I was like, "Oh man, he knows how to dial in sounds that good that quickly. Shit, I got to really figure this out." And then with my luck, the next house I moved into, we converted the garage. We didn't tell the landlords. We did I fully like built a room within a room inside this garage that still exists to this day. The landlords never questioned us about it. And I think musicians live in the house now. It's in Mount Washington.
Mm.
And I moved in with another engineer, and that guy engineered all my drum sessions for me too.
Who was
You
that?
know, his name is Pete Racine,
Okay.
and actually, you should totally talk to him. He's got a studio in Echo Park now that he just opened called the Meat Market. Nope, that's Lucy's Meat Market.
Yeah, yeah,
Pete's
yeah.
place is called the Market.
Oh,
Wow, we'll edit that. Don't
okay.
edit it. It's
It's
fine.
okay. It's all right.
I
Yeah,
love both of those guys.
yeah.
Um, Peter Racine, and he opened it with a buddy of his. The sounds that we got in there are really incredible. They got a nice collection of drums.
Okay.
Anyway, Pete was my roommate for a couple of years, and we had a studio together in our garage as well. So I guess it's kind of like par for the course. Like, I kind of have always just moved into spaces where it kind of works, and that's good enough for now. And maybe when I retire, I'll be able to build a room and really go for it. But for now, it's like, it's great.
I mean, to me, that just says that like you've had enough experience, you know, uh, obviously playing wise, but also just being in the room and helping make decisions
Mm,
and listening back and being able to experiment, like, whether it's just a bright snare drum or or mic placement. You know what I mean? Like you're just
yeah,
absorbing that stuff for like a long time now. With super knowledgeable dudes.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Been very lucky to have that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. For me, I don't know if you know. Do you know Kurt Schneider?
I feel like you've mentioned the name before, but
Okay.
I don't. I
Kurt
don't
was
know.
like a big influence on me because Kurt has a very similar sized garage.
Mm,
There was a few years where I was working with Kurt a bunch, and I would just watch him. He would engineer whole sessions at the same time and play bass and produce, and it was like insanity. But everything always sounded great. And I was
cool.
kind of like, I was like, okay, I can do this. I mean, I can't do it yet, but I gotta, you know what I mean? Like, I gotta up my game so I can be doing that. You know.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think it's just invaluable to be able to be in the room. Obviously, you have to do your own experimenting, your own playing, but you just to be able to just osmosis, man, just watch somebody do it.
Yeah.
and
And I think
and have a small say in it. Like, what if we try this? What if we try this? You know?
totally, totally. I feel like too that I wonder if I've kind of held back on some of my own deep diving because I find the collaborative process with people like you, with people like my former roommates, I find that so much more rewarding because then it's a collaborative effort and we're hopefully both teaching each other about
Mhm.
different things, like, or in our case, like, I feel like every time I step into that room I'm just like flabbergasted at how quickly you can be like, oh, this drum, this cymbal, this is what you want, and it's always, you're like, yep, that's it, perfect, let's go, you know um and I think to me, like, maybe that has held me back in gaining recording knowledge, but at the same time I find that process of working with somebody else so much more rewarding than working on my own.
I don't know if I buy that, but okay. You know
Okay,
what I mean?
sure.
I think you're doing just fine. I just think you're being too humble. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. You're like it's great to have uh, uh, a partner, musical partner, in any
Hmm.
situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole point of. I sound like a broken record often, but like that's the whole point of why we play music is to make music with other people. And the
Yeah.
idea of like doing this all on your own is super unnatural, in my opinion. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
It's so the idea of like, yeah, I want a knowledgeable partner in there, whether it's on the engineering side or just helping make musical decisions about the particular thing you're recording. You know,
Yeah.
I think you're,
Yeah.
yeah, to me, that makes more sense than anything,
Hmm. Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. Yeah, it's, I don't know, the collaboration is key.
Yeah, that's why, I mean,
Yeah, that's why it exists, right?
yeah, the first guy didn't like start playing a drum by himself. There was a drum circle, right?
Yeah, right.
It's
Right.
like he wasn't just like out in the woods like I'm just gonna do this because it's cool. It's like no, like people are gonna
Yeah, I
dance.
wonder.
There's gonna be
I wonder.
like right?
I guess,
Probably.
yeah.
I mean,
Had to start somewhere. Yeah, I mean, there had to be the one crazy person in the middle of the woods by themselves doing it alone, right? But
maybe I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll never know. But
yeah,
it seems like the point of it was community,
yeah, totally, totally.
not
So
no. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I do hope at some point I can figure out a more permanent solution at my shop so I can start kind of offering that space to other people to record in. Or I would really love to start doing like a music series in there if I
Mhm.
could. If I start having some extra time to like figure out a way to foster either open studios every couple of months and have friends just come in and perform acoustic, um, or play duo and trio with people, or yeah, like straight up have other people come and record their stuff in there. I would
Well,
love to figure out a way to do that.
I tell you because like it's hard to find those spaces. I was doing this improv gig a handful of years ago at this place called the Redwood Bar. It was fun because we
Hmm.
could just go in there and just like,
Yeah, I remember.
yeah,
I
and like,
stopped through a little bit.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
like, that gig ended, and then we did one, and I don't remember what the place was, but it was like an art space, and it was super fun. But just for people to have a space to where it's not about how many people you're going to bring in. It's like, well, maybe only 15 people show up, but like you get to go in there and just be creative and do whatever, whether it's a trio gig
Yeah.
or whether it's pure improv or whether it's noise or whether it's, sound bath. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Totally.
you got to get on your case, man, because that's like, you know, it's like a whole nother trip. But like to offer a space like that, I think especially in LA where it's so expensive
Yeah.
to do that is like
Yeah.
that's an awesome idea.
I've
And now,
already,
and now you're
yeah.
saying it publicly, unless I have cut this out.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, yeah, go for it. I
Yeah.
would love to work that out. I
Yeah.
think yeah, no, the the one thing that keeps coming up is like, hey man, are you gonna make a splice sample pack or what?
Ah,
You know, so who knows? There might be something in the works. There's also a couple machines that sound insane. in there, and I would love to sample those or figure out a way to do something with that, or who knows.
You could be the wood Greg Keplinger, the wooden Greg Keplinger.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
All right, that was it. That was the end.
Okay, all right, great, dude. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Thanks, dude. That was super awesome.